On a serene afternoon at the foot of the northern mountains of India, a renowned scholar named Ananda was making his journey to meet the Buddha. Ananda was known for his vast wisdom and unparalleled knowledge of sacred texts. He had dedicated his life to study and contemplation, amassing a vast repertoire of philosophical and spiritual knowledge. As Ananda approached the grove where the Buddha was meditating, his mind buzzed with questions and theories he was eager to discuss. He imagined the profound conversations he would have with the Enlightened One, anticipating the revelations that would surely come from this meeting. Upon reaching the clearing where the Buddha was sitting under a Bodhi tree, Ananda bowed respectfully. The Buddha slowly opened his eyes, his face radiating a serenity that immediately calmed Ananda's mental agitation. With a gentle gesture, the Buddha invited the scholar to sit. "Welcome, Ananda," the Buddha said with a warm smile. "You've come a long way. You must be tired and thirsty. Allow me to offer you a cup of tea." Ananda, somewhat surprised by this mundane reception, nodded politely. He had expected to dive straight into a deep discussion, but he realized that the Buddha had his own way of doing things. He watched attentively as the Buddha picked up a teapot and a simple ceramic cup. The Buddha began pouring tea into Ananda's cup with graceful, deliberate movements. The gentle aroma of jasmine tea filled the air, creating an atmosphere of tranquility. Ananda noticed how every gesture of the Buddha seemed filled with meaning, as if the simple act of serving tea was a profound lesson in itself. As the tea neared the rim of the cup, Ananda expected the Buddha to stop. To his surprise, the Buddha continued pouring. The tea reached the rim and began to overflow, spilling onto the tray and dripping onto the ground. Alarmed, Ananda exclaimed, "Master, the cup is full. It can't hold any more." The Buddha stopped pouring and looked directly into Ananda's eyes. In a gentle but firm voice, he said, "Like this cup, Ananda, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you the wisdom of the Dharma unless you first empty your cup?" These words struck Ananda like a lightning bolt of clarity. He suddenly realized that his mind was so full of accumulated knowledge, theories, and expectations that there was no room for new insights. Just as the overflowing cup could not hold more tea, his overloaded mind could not receive the wisdom the Buddha was offering. In that moment, Ananda understood that true learning was not just about accumulating more information, but about creating space for new insights. He realized that his relentless pursuit of knowledge had, paradoxically, become an obstacle to true wisdom. The Buddha, seeing the understanding dawn on Ananda's face, continued, "Ananda, the mind is like this cup. When it is full of prejudices, judgments, and fixed ideas, there is no room for new perspectives. To truly learn, we must first empty our mind, creating an open and receptive space." Ananda reflected on his own experiences. How many times had he approached a situation with the certainty that he already knew everything there was to know? How many learning opportunities had he missed because his mind was already made up about how things should be? The Buddha took a cloth and began wiping up the spilled tea, his slow and deliberate movements serving as a metaphor for the process of clearing the mind. "Observe, Ananda," he said, "how we clean this space. In the same way, we must cleanse our mind of unnecessary thoughts and attachments." Ananda watched in silence, beginning to understand that the path to true wisdom was not through endless accumulation, but through openness to the unknown. He realized that he needed to learn to empty his cup, to create space in his mind for new ideas and experiences. As the sun began to set, casting golden shadows across the clearing, Ananda felt a profound shift within himself. The lesson of the teacup had planted a seed of transformation in his consciousness. He was ready to begin his journey of true learning, not just by accumulating knowledge, but by cultivating an open and receptive mind. The Buddha, noticing this change in Ananda, smiled gently. "Now, Ananda," he said, "that you've begun to empty your cup, we are ready to explore the deeper truths of the Dharma. But remember, at every moment, keep your cup empty, ready to be filled with the wisdom of the present." With these words, the first step of Ananda's journey to empty his mind had begun. He was ready to let go of his preconceived notions and embrace a new path of discovery and enlightenment. The next morning, Ananda woke to the soft sound of birds singing. he found the Buddha sitting in meditation under the same Bodhi tree. The enlightened one opened his eyes and smiled, inviting Ananda to join him. "Ananda," the Buddha began, "yesterday you learned about the importance of emptying your cup. Today, we will explore how to keep that cup empty through the practice of mindfulness." The Buddha took the same cup from the day before and placed it between them. "Observe this cup, Ananda. Really observe it." Ananda looked at the cup, noticing its simple shape, the texture of the ceramic, the small imperfections that made it unique. As he observed, he realized how many details he had missed the day before when his mind was so full of thoughts and expectations. "Mindfulness, Ananda, is like observing this cup," explained the Buddha. "It is being fully present in the moment, observing without judgment, without clinging to the past or projecting into the future." The Buddha then took the teapot and began pouring slowly. "Now, Ananda, observe the tea being poured. Pay attention to every aspect of this experience." Ananda focused all his attention on the act of pouring the tea. He noticed the soft sound of the liquid falling into the cup, the aroma that filled the air, the steam rising in delicate spirals. He observed how the color of the tea changed as the cup filled, and how the morning sunlight played on the surface of the liquid. "This, Ananda, is mindfulness," said the Buddha. "When we practice mindfulness, we are completely immersed in the present moment. There is no room for unnecessary thoughts, worries, or distractions." Ananda realized that during those moments of intense observation, his mind had become quiet. The thoughts that usually bombarded him had ceased, leaving only a clear and serene awareness. The Buddha continued, "Mindfulness is like keeping your cup empty and clean. When we are mindful, we observe our thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. They come and go, like tea being poured and drunk, but the cup, our consciousness, remains clear and receptive." To demonstrate this, the Buddha asked Ananda to drink the tea with full attention. Ananda brought the cup to his lips, feeling the warmth of the ceramic, the rich aroma of the tea, the complex taste as the liquid touched his tongue. He was completely present in every aspect of the experience. "See, Ananda," said the Buddha, "when you drink the tea with mindfulness, you naturally empty the cup. In the same way, when we practice mindfulness in our daily lives, we constantly empty our minds of unnecessary thoughts." The Buddha then guided Ananda in a mindfulness meditation practice. They sat in silence, focusing on their breath. The Buddha instructed Ananda to observe each inhalation and exhalation, noticing the sensations of the air entering and leaving his nostrils. At first, Ananda found it difficult to stay focused. His mind kept wandering, thinking about the past or planning for the future. But each time he noticed the distraction, he gently brought his attention back to his breath, just as the Buddha had taught. Gradually, Ananda began to experience moments of deep clarity. In those moments, it was as if his mind was the perfectly empty cup, capable of reflecting the world around him with crystal-clear precision. After the meditation, the Buddha explained, "Ananda, just as you practiced with the breath, you can bring this same quality of attention to all your activities. When you walk, be fully aware of each step. When you eat, savor each bite. When you speak, truly listen without preparing your next words." Ananda understood that the practice of mindfulness was a powerful way to keep his mental cup empty and receptive. He saw that by being fully present in each moment, he could prevent his mind from filling up with unnecessary worries, judgments, and attachments. "Remember, Ananda," the Buddha concluded, "mindfulness is not just a meditation practice. It is a way of living. By cultivating mindfulness in all aspects of your life, you keep your mind open and receptive, ready to receive the wisdom that each moment offers." With these words, a new understanding took root within Ananda. He realized that the practice of mindfulness was the way to keep his cup constantly empty and ready for the experiences and insights that life offered. It was an invitation to live each moment fully, with clarity and presence. On the third day of his teachings, the Buddha took Ananda for a walk through the forest. As they walked, the Buddha carried the same teacup they had used in the previous days. Ananda noticed how the Buddha held the cup lightly, almost as if he were ready to let it go at any moment. Reaching a clearing, the Buddha stopped and said, "Ananda, over the past few days, you've learned about emptying your mind and practicing mindfulness. Today, we will explore how to cultivate detachment, another crucial key to keeping your mind empty and receptive. The Buddha raised the cup, letting the sunlight shine through it. Look at this cup, Ananda. It has served us well, hasn't it? It has provided us with tea, taught us valuable lessons. But what if I let it fall now? Before Ananda could react, the Buddha dropped the cup. Instinctively, Ananda lunged forward, catching it just before it hit the ground. His heart raced, and he felt a wave of relief at having saved the precious object. The Buddha smiled gently. Ananda, why did you move so quickly to save the cup? Still catching his breath, Ananda replied, Master, this cup is special. It has taught us so many lessons, it would be a shame to see it broken. Ah, said the Buddha, I see you have become attached to the cup. You have given it meaning beyond its function. This is a perfect example of how we become attached to things, ideas, and even people in our lives. The Buddha took the cup from Ananda's hands and placed it on the ground between them. Attachment, Ananda, is like filling your cup with stones. It makes it heavy, hard to carry, and leaves no room for the tea of wisdom. Detachment, on the other hand, is keeping your cup light and ready for whatever the moment offers. Ananda reflected on his own experiences with attachment. How many times had he clung to ideas, even when they no longer served him? How many times had the fear of losing something prevented him from embracing new opportunities? The Buddha continued, Detachment does not mean not caring, Ananda. It means caring deeply, but without clinging. It is fully appreciating what we have while we have it, but being ready to let it go when the time comes. To illustrate this point, the Buddha picked up a handful of dry leaves from the forest floor. He placed them in the cup and said, These leaves are like our attachments, watch. The Buddha then blew gently over the cup. The dry leaves flew away, carried by the breeze. See how the leaves easily drift away when we don't hold on to them? So it must be with our thoughts, emotions, and possessions. We appreciate their presence, but we don't resist when it's time for them to leave. Ananda watched, fascinated, as the leaves danced in the air before settling gently on the ground. He began to understand that detachment was a form of freedom, not loss. The Buddha then asked Ananda to practice detachment with the cup itself. Hold it, Ananda. Appreciate its beauty, its usefulness. Now be ready to let it go. Hesitantly, Ananda took the cup. He examined it, noticing every detail, feeling its texture. Then slowly he opened his hands, allowing the cup to rest in his open palms. Excellent, Ananda, said the Buddha. You are holding the cup, but you are not gripping it. This is the balance of detachment. You can fully appreciate something without the need to possess or control it. The Buddha explained that this practice of detachment could be applied to all aspects of life. When we have a thought, we can observe it without identifying with it. When we experience an emotion, we can feel it fully without being consumed by it. When we relate to others, we can love them deeply without trying to control them. Ananda realized that detachment was a natural extension of the mindfulness they had practiced the previous day. By being fully present, it became easier to recognize the constant flow of experiences without clinging to any of them. The Buddha concluded, Remember, Ananda, just as this cup is more useful when it is empty, our mind is more receptive when it is not weighed down by attachments. By cultivating detachment, we keep our mind open and flexible, ready to receive the wisdom of each moment. With these words, Ananda felt as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He saw that many of his struggles came from holding on too tightly to ideas, expectations, and desires. The practice of detachment offered a path to freedom, a way to experience life more fully without being trapped by it. As they walked back, Ananda noticed how the forest seemed more alive, more vibrant. By letting go of his attachments, he had created space for a deeper appreciation of the world around him. His mind, like the empty cup, was now more open to receiving the wonders of each moment. On the morning of the fourth day, Ananda found the Buddha sitting by a crystal-clear lake. The surface of the water was so calm that it perfectly reflected the sky above, creating an illusion of infinity. The Buddha invited Ananda to sit beside him, placing the familiar teacup between them. Ananda, the Buddha began, in the past few days, you have learned to empty your mind, practice mindfulness, and cultivate detachment. Today we will explore the final and deepest concept, embracing emptiness. The Buddha took the cup and dipped it into the lake, filling it with water. He raised it, allowing Ananda to observe how the water took the shape of the cup. "Look, Ananda," said the Buddha, "it is the emptiness inside the cup that makes it useful. It is the inner space that allows it to hold and offer water. Similarly, it is the emptiness in our minds that enables us to perceive, think, and experience the world." Ananda looked at the cup with newfound appreciation. He had always thought of emptiness as something to be filled, but now he began to see its intrinsic value. The Buddha continued, "Emptiness, Ananda, is not a barren nothingness. It is a space full of potential, like this tranquil lake, capable of reflecting the entire sky." To illustrate this point, the Buddha picked up a small stone and tossed it into the lake. Ananda watched the concentric ripples spreading across the surface, momentarily disturbing the perfect reflection. "See how the lake accepts the stone, Ananda. It does not resist. It does not cling. The waves arise and then disappear, and the lake returns to its calm state, ready for the next moment. This is the nature of the emptiness we must embrace in our minds." Ananda began to understand that emptiness was not something to be feared or avoided, but rather a quality to be cultivated. It was a state of openness and receptivity, free from prejudice and self-imposed limitations. The Buddha then asked Ananda to empty the cup back into the lake. When Ananda did so, the Buddha said, "Now, Ananda, what remains in the cup?" Ananda looked at the empty cup and replied, "Nothing, Master. The cup is empty." The Buddha smiled. "Is it really? Look closer." Ananda examined the cup carefully and noticed that there were still a few drops of water clinging to its sides and bottom. Furthermore, the cup was full of air. "Ah," said the Buddha, "now you see that even when we think something is empty, it is still full of possibilities. Emptiness is not absence but presence, the presence of infinite potential." The Buddha explained that embracing emptiness in our minds is cultivating a state of radical openness. It is being free from preconceived notions, ready to experience each moment as if it were the first. When we embrace emptiness, said the Buddha, we become like this cup, receptive, adaptable, ready to receive whatever life offers. We are not bound to any particular form or content, but remain open to all possibilities. Ananda reflected on how his quest for knowledge had often led him to fill his mind with concepts and theories. Now he saw that true wisdom came not from accumulating more, but from creating space for new insights. The Buddha continued, "Embracing emptiness does not mean becoming indifferent or apathetic. On the contrary, it is being fully present and engaged with life, without the limitations of our own projections and expectations." To demonstrate this, the Buddha asked Ananda to close his eyes and completely empty his mind. At first, Ananda found the task nearly impossible. Thoughts kept arising, but gradually, as he practiced what he had learned about mindfulness and detachment, he began to experience moments of deep clarity. In those moments of emptiness, Ananda felt a sense of expansion, as if the boundaries of his being were dissolving. He felt connected to everything around him, the lake, the trees, the sky. It was a state of pure awareness, free from judgments or concepts. When Ananda opened his eyes, the world seemed new, vibrant, and full of possibilities. The Buddha smiled, recognizing the understanding in his disciples' eyes. "This, Ananda, is embracing emptiness," said the Buddha. "It is seeing the world as it truly is, not obscured by our mental projections. It is being fully present and open to the truth of each moment." The Buddha concluded, "Remember, Ananda, just like this cup, your mind is most useful when it is empty. Not empty of awareness, but empty of prejudices, attachments, and self-imposed limitations. By embracing emptiness, you become capable of holding and reflecting the infinite richness of existence." With these words, Ananda felt as though he had reached the end of a profound journey. He had begun with a mind overflowing with knowledge, like a cup brimming with tea. Now, he understood the value of emptying that cup, of creating space for new experiences and insights. As the sun set over the lake, casting golden hues upon the water, Ananda realized that his true learning was only just beginning. With an open and receptive mind, each moment became an opportunity for discovery and enlightenment. The empty cup, far from being a loss, was actually the greatest gift, a call to embrace the fullness of life in all its wondrous unpredictability.